Everybody, and welcome to tonight's Facebook Live. My name is Nancy Abdou. I am the CEO and founder of the Australian Dermal Laser Institute, where we bring you all things training. So if you've joined me here on Instagram, hello and welcome. If you've joined me here on Facebook, welcome and thank you for having me in your lounge room. So before I start, I'm just going to let a few more people pop on, and if you can see me, just give me a wave and say hello. And while, like I said, a few more people come on, I want you just to have a think. If you have a light-based modality, so if you have an IPL, let me know what burning question, excuse the pun, what burning question you have that you would like me to answer tonight. So if you've got an IPL, what question would you like to know or the answer to? Maybe you're not getting results, or maybe you don't know how to use a particular wavelength. So we've got a few more people coming on. Now, a little bit about me and about what we do. First of all, like I said, my name is Nancy. I've been training for over 11 years and in the industry for 21 years. And the last 2 years, I won the Australian Beauty Industry Award for Best Educator, so 21 and 22, which is an amazing feat. And I'd like to thank Mocha Publishing and Linda Woodhead for the opportunity. Now, about Tadley, we provide lots of face-to-face training around Australia and New Zealand. And my love or my passion comes from light-based modalities such as IPL and laser. We also do plasma fibroblast training. We do radio frequency, RF needling training, HIFU, fat cavitation, electrolysis, yes, diathermy, and epiblading, plus so much more. So if you have a device and don't know how to use it, then please reach out and we'll be more than happy to come into your clinic and achieve amazing results. So tonight's live is all about IPL and pushing the boundaries safely. How do we get these results? How do you optimize the usage of all the different filters? So let's work our way from the shallowest wavelength, which is our blue light. So depending on which device you have, it might be the 415 or 420 nanometer filter, and that is predominantly for acne. And so what happens there is your blue light is being emitted, and the porphyrins in the acne lesion or the pustule is converted into an O2 molecule. So there's a chemical reaction that happens, and I know many of you probably are a little bit scared of perhaps the 420 filter. You don't need to be, because we only need to use low fluences. We just need low energy, long pulse duration. In terms of pain, it only needs to be roughly about a 4 out of 5 or a 5 in terms of the pain that the client is feeling. So it doesn't need to be overly painful. And for best results, we're doing, roughly 2 or 3 passes per lesion. And with that, you'll get quite a reduction in the amount of bacteria and some of the inflammation in the lesion. Now, if you don't have a 400, 415 or a 420 nanometer filter, you could go to your 420 or 430, because there is still light coming out. There is still absorption by the porphyrin, and you'll get a reduction in the actual duration of the acne pustule, as well as the severity as well, excuse me. So your acne filter is the most shallowest. And if we look at the light, the electromagnetic light spectrum or radiation spectrum, we've got blue light is roughly being, like I said, emitted at roughly 415, 420 nanometers, which is the most superficial. And that reminds me of beach waves. So these beach waves are superficial. They lap up really quickly to the edge where the sand is, and they frequent high. There is a high frequency rather. So there's lots of little waves coming to the surface. As we go higher in that number, so our 500 nanometers, 600 nanometers, and so forth, we're going a little bit deeper. So the next up we have is our 500 nanometer wavelengths. So some devices might have 520, some 530. Then we've got our 540, 560. So my 500s are going a little bit deeper, and they're going to be for skin, anything that's got to do with pigmentation, vascular lesions, collagen induction, a little bit of plumping of the skin as well. So my 500s is going to go roughly, if I bring my little, there we go, both of you can see that. So if we're going a little bit deeper, then say our papillary layer, so 520, 530, 540, and it keeps going right up to say 580 or 590, depending on the filter you have. But my 500s are going to help with anything that's skin, whether it's collagen induction or, like I said, pigmented or vascular. With those, the way you use the filter for each particular lesion, whether it's red or brown, is going to be a little bit different. And here's where a lot of therapists will actually either get scared to push the boundaries or don't know how to use those filters properly, or the applicator properly. So let's first go pigmentation, and we're talking about sun damage here. So anything that is quite superficial. Now with sun damage, it's really important that we're using ideally our most superficial wavelength, so 520 or 530, or if it's slightly muddled deeper pigmentation, you might want to go to your slightly deeper wavelength, so your 540 or your 560. But with that, you're only using a little bit of conductive gel and using a lot of pressure and minimal cooling. And that's probably where the mistake happens. Some therapists use a bit of cooling. If we're trying to achieve temperatures of 70 degrees to get microcrusting, our clinical endpoint is that pigmentary change and microcrusting, we're wanting to not have any cooling at all, right? And so if we're cooling the epidermis, that microcrusting is not going to happen. So that's the first thing you should be doing. The second thing I talked about just then was pressure, making sure you've got lots of pressure on the skin with your applicator. The reason for that is by putting pressure, what happens to the color of your skin? It blanches and it goes white. We're not wanting to actually address any of the vascularity. We're not wanting absorption by our blood. So if we push down, we're pushing away the blood, and only the pigmentation is going to be absorbing that light, which makes it less painful. There's less downtime, and there's less, erythema and downtime. So pigmentation, we've got lots of pressure, a little bit of cooling. On the other hand, with vascular lesions, when we're treating for vascularity, we're wanting a little bit of pressure, like the minimum amount. So it's just basically the applicator is just hovering over the actual skin and in the gel. So we want a lot of gel, and because as soon as you put any pressure on the skin, you're going to actually lose some of that vascular that we're, the blood that we're trying to treat. So really important, we have the least amount of pressure, and we want our cooling on halfway, depending on your device. It could be on 3 icicles or level 50% or level 3 if you're out of 6, but it's just halfway. The reason is we're going to be using a lot more power, so the intensity is definitely there, and we want to protect the epidermis from burning or from being overtreated. I shouldn't use the B word, right? So we want to protect the epidermis, and we need more energy, and that way we're able to cause either coagulation of that capillary, or we're able to close it to shut down that capillary. So really important with vascular lesions and with pigmentation, we're treating them differently but with the same filters. So with your 500s, but your vascularity is going to require more energy and more cooling. Just remember that, and no pressure whatsoever. In terms of treatment with vascular lesions, I've heard of people treating every month. I would like you to treat every 7 to 14 days while the capillary is still compromised and while it's still fragile. So if you retreat within that 7 to 14 days, you'll get better clearance than if you were to wait, say, 28 days or 4 weeks. Now, once you start getting better uptake of that pigmentation and we've got better clearance and there's not much pigmentation left, you do need to increase your energy by 2 joules with every treatment. And the same thing with vascular lesions. You need to increase your power by 2 joules and make sure you're treating at roughly 15 milliseconds. If you're treating at 5 or 10 milliseconds with vascular lesions, you might most likely will find that you'll get a bit of bruising. And so we don't want to be treating at too short a pulse duration, but roughly 15 to 20 milliseconds is ideal for vascular. And for pigment, you're wanting to be treating roughly, depending on how light that pigmentation has become, anywhere from 10 to 15 milliseconds. So the shorter the pulse duration, and this is on most devices that are out there, so always check with your manufacturer and do test batches. But for pigmentation, we're looking at 10 to 15 milliseconds, and vascular, it's roughly 15 to 20 milliseconds. Now, like I said, as we're getting the vascular, I'm talking about more vascularity here, as that's getting lighter and there's less and less visible vessels, what you should be doing is perhaps performing something a little bit just prior to your IPL to increase the amount of blood to the surface of the skin. You could do this by doing a microdermabrasion or a radiofrequency treatment beforehand, or any other treatment that's actually going to bring blood to the surface of the skin and cause vasodilation. And so there's better absorption by those capillaries, and you'll actually start to get better clearance once you've got vasodilation, you've brought up those capillaries to the surface of the skin. So doing that is definitely going to make your treatments a lot more, I suppose, aggressive in a safe manner, other than just, always turning up those settings if you've really pushed those settings, enough. So you could push those boundaries in that way. Now with hair, we're going to be using our 600 and 700 nanometer wavelengths. So depending again on your machine, it could be 640, 690, and potentially 750. Now remember when I said blue waves, right, remind me of the beach? Well, my red waves remind me of the ocean. Now they go in deeper, so we're wanting to target the actual follicle right there, and we're wanting to destroy both the stem cells and the blood supply. So with our 600 and 700 nanometer wavelength, we're going to go a little bit deeper. The waves are like the ocean. They're big, deep, rolling waves, and they frequent a lot less to the actual shore. So they're bigger, they're deeper, and they frequent a lot less. So with those, we can only treat dark hairs. So we can only treat brown and black, even sort of an auburn color. But once there's red and once there's blonde or white hairs, you cannot treat with your normal 600 and 700 filters. There is a way to treat with white hair and blonde hair, and also red hairs, of course, with your 500s, but that is for another live. But with those, you want to be treating within roughly about 40 milliseconds. A little bit of perifollicular edema is acceptable, and a little bit of redness is fine for the actual skin, a little bit of erythema. So with our hair removal, there's one thing I want to talk to you about, which Amanda Arlem asked a few weeks ago. Thank you for your question, Amanda. And that was about the flourish phase. So the question was, what is the flourish phase and how do I explain it best to my clients? And this is one thing that when you're performing, when therapists are performing IPL hair reduction treatments, they often forget, and clients don't understand the importance of attending, not their meetings, sorry, their appointments at the right and the precise time. So what actually happens is in the first 3 to 4 treatments, we're actually synchronizing hair growth. The way it works is we have 3 hair growth cycles, anagen, catagen, and telogen. So the active growing phase, the transitional phase, which is the catagen, and telogen, which is the resting phase, or when the hair's about to fall out or it's fallen out, right? In the catagen and telogen phases, there are no stem cells, there's no blood supply to destroy. So it will not work on those that part of the cycle. However, it will work only in the anagen phase when the stem cells and the blood supply are there for us to destroy. So we do the treatment, let's say today, and then roughly in 2 weeks' time, the actual hair is going to look like it's growing, it's being purged, and it's going to fall out. Then the hair transitions, or the follicle rather transitions we're pushing it into a false sense of telogen, and so then we start again with anagen. And so what happens is new hair comes through in the anagen phase. We do the treatment, we push the hair into a false sense of telogen again. Again, the hair falls out. Third treatment, we're doing the same thing. Fourth treatment, we're now finding that we've actually started synchronizing hair growth. And so what happens between treatment number 4 and treatment number 5 is we get what we call the flourish phase. Now, it's really important for you to be telling and reminding your clients on that 4th treatment, they're going to experience an abundance of hair, the flourish phase. All the hair's flourishing. It looks like it's growing back, but it's not. What's happening is because we've synchronized hair growth, it appears to all be growing back all together and at once. Now, your 4th and your 5th treatments are going to be the most important. Reason being, instead of the hairs being in anagen and only say 15% or 20% of the hairs are in anagen, because we've synchronized hair, we now have 20-30% of hairs now in anagen. So treatment number 5 and treatment number 6 are going to be your most important treatments because most of the hairs are now in anagen. And after the 6th treatment, this is where we can now start to have longer intervals in between treatments. So just remember to explain to your clients the importance of timing, the importance of not missing. I understand that potentially right now times are a little bit tough and we're not spending money on these luxury items such as hair removal. However, they don't want to necessarily, there's probably a better word than stuff up, but they do not want to disrupt their hair growth cycles. Otherwise, they miss out on that flourish phase and they're actually doing themselves a disservice by missing that flourish phase or missing an appointment. So really important that they're not missing appointments and they're actually coming in during the right time, so they're getting the maximum hair loss with every treatment, especially treatment 5 and 6. So hopefully that answers your message. Answers your question, Amanda, about the flourish phase and when to start pushing out treatments and how much you push them by. Potentially add an extra 2 to 4 weeks on. So if we're doing every 4 weeks, it might now become 6 weeks. And if you're finding that there's no hair still growing at 6 weeks, push it out by another 2 weeks. But as soon as they start seeing hair, we definitely want to be doing a treatment for that client. Okay, Skin Nation, hello. Hopefully that explains it properly. I find that consultation is often either not performed properly or it's not performed at all, as well as test patching. It's really important that we do test patching, we do our consultation, and I suppose explain to clients why we actually space out our treatments in the way we treat them, in the way that we do, so that we make sure that clients are getting the best out of the treatments. Amanda Ali, that's you. Hopefully that helped, Amanda. There you go. Can't remember all the clinic names. I'm so sorry. Anyway, so hopefully that explained it to you. I think I covered all your questions, Amanda. Thank you, Tanisa. Your knowledge is as incredible as well. So what else did I have that I was going to talk about? I think we're running out of time, but let me have a quick look. And of course, I've lost my document. All right, what were we also going to talk about? Treating lighter hair. Now, briefly touched on treating lighter hair. And I will explain that in another Facebook and Instagram live, because it is possible to treat white hair, but it's definitely not possible with our 600 and 700 nanometer wavelengths. I do want to hop on in the next few weeks to talk about BBL and SHR and Hero, so high energy rapid output. And what that actually is, it's also known as SSR or SHR. So over the next few weeks, or maybe in the next few months rather, because I know Tanisa has actually got some things scheduled in for me already, but I want to talk about what that is. So many people are saying, oh my God, BBL is amazing. But, what machine can they achieve this with? And what is it exactly? Why is there such a big deal about BBL? So let us talk about that. If there's any topics you want me to talk about, please send us a message either here or on Facebook, and I'll be more than happy to go through those topics with you. But in the meantime, there's two more things that I want to go or leave you with before I finish, and that is there is a combining modalities workshop so we had one actually from a little while ago. There's some new material that I want to share with you. So this is how to combine all your different modalities in the one treatment to create an enhanced impact and effect on the client's skin, and to also be able to utilize your devices to the best of their ability. I suppose because I know times are a little bit tough, a little bit trying. How do we actually use our devices off-label? How do we get the most out of these devices? How do I use a skin wavelength to help with collagen induction? There you go. How do we combine needling and radio frequency? So I want to see when you'd like us to do that. And I think Tanisa has got a, a poll. It could be about that. So anyway, have a look on Facebook. And the other thing I want to discuss really, really quickly, because I know we're out of time, is our inflammaging workshop. So Pia Konok, Tanisa is also joining us for this amazing 2-day inflammaging workshop. There is so much content that I'll be covering, that we'll all be covering. So make sure you head on over to our website and purchase your tickets. All right, that's it for me. It's 8 o'clock. I've overstayed my welcome. Hopefully that's been helpful, and I will see you next Wednesday. Have a good evening. Bye. And I know we're still here on Facebook. Hopefully you found that helpful too. Have a good night.